Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm here today with Andres Baiz, the director and executive producer of the six-part Netflix biographical crime drama Griselda that tells the story of the notorious Colombian drug queenpin, Griselda Blanco. Andres, you were involved as a producer and director on Narcos and Narcos Mexico for 7 years. What made you decide to immerse yourself in somewhat similar material again, directing a docudrama about a female drug lord?
That's a great question, Ray. At the beginning, I didn't want to, because I've been doing it for so many years, doing Narcos and Narcos Mexico. It was 7 years, telling the story of this crime lords in Latin America and their counterparts in the law enforcement side. So I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do something different, but there were two specific reasons I thought doing Griselda was the right decision. And one was to work with Sofia Vergara in her first dramatic role. So I had the opportunity to navigate with her this character and with her trying to, she took this very amazing risk, which is stepping out of her comfort zone. She's a great comedic actress, but she hasn't really done anything dramatic before. So having that opportunity to work with her in her first dramatic role was the first thing that really attracted me. And second, I had the opportunity, it was a limited series, and I had the opportunity to direct and produce all 6 episodes. So that gave me more control. It gave me an opportunity to devise a visual style and put a stamp on the show itself. So one thing I decided was to do something completely different than Narcos. And so I told Eric Newman, the producer, because we really treated this show as a movie, mostly as a producer director. And I said, I'm not gonna have a archival footage. I'm not gonna have a voiceover. I'm not gonna shoot it handheld like most of Narcos is. I'm not gonna have a credit sequence with a beautiful song at the beginning. I'm just gonna have the title Griselda appear on her face every time we see her close up for the first time. So I wanted to make something more intimate, character driven. So that was the reason. Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, Andres, I was a little skeptical about, Sofia Vergara from Modern Family, whether she could convincingly pull this off. As you said, this is her first dramatic role, big risk for her, known only for comedy. By the second episode, though, I'm told I was fully on board. I'd forgotten I was even watching, Gloria Delgado Pritchett from Modern Family in this show. Clearly, I think she and her talents and commitment were kind of underestimated going in, maybe as much as the woman she was playing, Griselda Blanco, in terms of being underestimated.
That's right. That's completely right. And one thing about working with Sofia is that she came to set, and even when I was working on her during pre-production, she was always very humble. She has a really amazing work ethic, but she came to set knowing that she was here to learn and to learn from her fellow actors and from the crew in general. So even though she was completely prepared and her work, and worked really hard, she was there with an open heart. And most of my attention was on her. I knew that the show could look beautiful, can be great. She was the center, the heart of the story. It was Sofia. So most of my attention was on her, and fortunately, I had an amazing crew, that I could talk to, so that the other aspects of filmmaking could be great as well.
This really is about career invention for her, isn't it? I mean, this is, she wants to be taken seriously as an actress, and she was able to put on this tour de force to bring that about. What were your conversations like with Sofia before the filming began, Andres? Were you ever concerned at any time she might not take direction the way you wanted her to?
there's always insecurities and things that you think that, okay, this is a big risk not only for her but it's also for me, because of exactly, it's her first dramatic role. I used to go to her house during pre-production a couple times a week. And first of all, the reason is to gain trust. First of all, a director needs to gain the actor's trust, absolutely. So it was about talking about ourselves, about our lives in Colombia, about our families, about our, dreams, our fears, and getting to know each other better. Not, so we just, that was very important. I think it's really, really important for a director to awaken the intuition on an actor. So I'm always very open to receive any ideas from actors. Even if I don't think they are the best ideas or they're the correct ones, I'm always willing to try them out. I'm always willing to say let's do them. Because if not, you close the door in their mind, and they become, they're not willing then to take the necessary risks on set. So that's very important for me. So we discussed, of course, not only our lives and became acquainted with each other, but we discussed the scenes, every single scene of the scripts that were written at that moment. What the motivations were of the character, what the character wants from another character, and I listened to her notes. And we started asking questions about her behavior. How did she walk? How did she move? What did she dream? What were her political inclinations, her religious inclinations? Anything that she was able to construct a character. She really wanted to be seen completely different than Gloria Pritchett and completely different than Sofia Vergara. So the more she got away from that persona, the better it was for her. So that was the journey between us.
That was very diplomatic of you. I mean, to want to involve her so much, and smart, because you're right. An actor who trusts the director. I mean, you can always see it on screen and always see the difference in how well you connect and how well you have chemistry. She had, I'm sure Sofia had felt like she had a measure of creative control herself beyond her performance.
She's a producer, of course, in the show, and but she wanted to concentrate specifically on her character, and so she let most of the creative decisions to Eric, the producer, or to me. I did share with her some cast, of course. I selected through casting and auditions the three best people I thought could be for this role, and then I went to her house and I say, "Hey, Sofia, I wanted your opinion on this, on these auditions," and she gave me her opinion. She never said, "I want her" or "want him." They have to be this. No, she just gave me her opinion, and I always try to involve her as much as I could so that she felt it was her show, because it was. But she really focused on her performance most of all.
You're from Colombia yourself, Andres.
Yes.
Was Griselda famous and notorious while you were growing up in Colombia? I mean, obviously, clearly not on the scale of Pablo Escobar. Why didn't we know more about her before this series? I mean, is it sexism? Kind of?
Perhaps it's part of that. I think she wasn't that well known, to tell you the truth, in Colombia when I was growing up. I found about her later in life, not when I made this show, but actually when I was doing Narcos. I heard about her. There isn't. I think there's many reasons. One, most of her, I mean, her criminal life, she spent it in New York and Miami, not in Colombia. That's one reason. Second, it's not, she, as opposed to Pablo Escobar, she didn't went to war against the country, and the documentation there is on Pablo Escobar is immense. There's video and photographs and so. I mean, he really threatened the whole country, and and there's much less information on Griselda Blanco. But I think the fact that she's a woman, that's probably part of it as well. Yes. Mm-hmm.
The series, I think, Andres, feels like so many stories in one. You're spinning this tale of Griselda, the mother to her kids, Griselda, the earth mother for the reformed prostitutes, Griselda, the kind of the hard-nosed, don't screw with me narcotics trafficker. It's almost like you've got three characters in one. That had to really appeal to Sofia and probably to you as a director.
Absolutely. I'm always attracted to characters that are contradictory. Um, and that's important to me. If actually my filmography is full of anti-heroes, and I think anti-heroes are contradictory characters by nature, and that's very appealing because you're able to ask questions about human nature, and Griselda wasn't the exception. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
What made you and Eric Newman think that a 6-hour limited series was the right format to tell the story as a complete arc and not a feature? It seems like, I mean, you obviously 6 hours, you could do 3 features in the space of that. But did you feel like you needed that room to roam to make a complete story?
Yes, I think it's so much research that we did a lot of research on Griselda Blanco, and there was a lot of information that was amazing and surreal and absurd and contradictory, as you well said. So we wanted to use the greatest hits of her life and her story. And there were many fascinating characters, and we had the June Hawkins character on the other side of the coin. And actually, June Hawkins is also a real character, the detective and the police force in Miami. And so actually, I even hoped we would have done 1 or 2 more episodes. And it was great. The 6 episodes was amazing, but I even wanted one or 2 more. But I think it was the right format, a limited series, to portray her life and her complete arc and understand all the contradictions and feel for her and see all the facets of her persona.
So at some point, Netflix just said, "Okay, look, 6 is enough. We got to pull the plug. Sorry, that's it."
Even though something like that, yeah.
I love the kind of sometimes washed out and then sometimes glitzy look Griselda has. It feels really genuine to the whole 1980s Miami Vice era you were depicting. Andres, I'm sure that was part of your thinking going in. The look is so important. It just has that feel. You feel like you're there watching them through a crack in the door.
You mean the look of the show in general?
The look in general, which I know is cinematography, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously your job as director too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let me tell you a couple stories. First of all, we shot the complete show in Los Angeles. There's not one single frame in Miami. Part of it's because of Sofia's schedule, and so we had to shoot in LA, but that's the magic of cinema. So we shot a lot of it in Long Beach and in other scenarios in Los Angeles, all over. Miami doesn't look at all like Miami in the 70s and 80s. So we had to look for very specific locations, and we found amazing ones. And I'm actually very proud that we shot that nobody actually can tell that. When during our location scouts, I used to take a Polaroid camera with me as a hobby. Not I took photographs of people I saw or locations or the crew members around me. And Armando Salas, who is our DP, who actually is from Miami, took the Polaroids and said, "Hey, there's something here. There's a look here that we should emulate." So we started taking a lot of Polaroids in our location scouts, and then he simulated a sort of look with the camera to certain Polaroids that we chose specifically. And we, of course, watch a lot of movies. So I always start by looking at a lot of photography books, not movies per se, but I own a big collection of photography books, and I start looking at those and the photographs of Andy Sweet, which was a very young photographer in Miami in the late 70s, was a big inspiration, and other photographers as well. One other big inspiration for me was actually Gina Rowlands, the great actress Gina Rowlands, who worked with her husband John Cassavetes in many films and other films. And for me, when I close my eyes, Sofia, Griselda, Gina Rowlands kind of mix into one, and I want that energy, that performance out of Sofia, kind of that. So she was always on my mind, especially the movie Gloria, which is one of the most accessible films by Cassavetes. It was on my mind, but we decided with Armando that we were gonna shoot in a studio mode, mostly than handheld, which was going to be more difficult for Sofia and for the actors, because it needs to be, there's a little bit less freedom in that. But I'm always very on set. For me, the actors are absolutely first than any technical thing that we need to do. But it's the combination of all those elements that created the look of our show.
Just to switch gears for a second before we wrap up, Andres, I'm just wondering, can a biopic about a female drug lord really be seen as a story of empowerment, rather than just straight up criminality? I mean, she's depicted as being pretty badass and empowered. I mean, do you see this, I think, more as an intimate character study at its core, and surrounded by toxic masculinity, and she had to survive in this world of men trying to take her down. I guess that is empowering.
Absolutely. No, I think it is important. And it was for me, when you do a show or a film about someone that existed, a real life character, you can say, I like this part of the story, I like this part of their lives, and you put everything together and then you tell the story, but then there's something lacking. What are you saying? What is it? What's the theme of what you're saying? There needs to be a unifying element. You cannot just put the life on screen and that's it. And I always have to be very loyal or faithful to that theme. And that theme was that she was a woman at the center of the man's world that were trying to pull the rug under her all the time. And that created an empowerment on her side, absolutely, because the men were the one who were using these tactics that were very brutal in a sense. Well, she was using her wits, all the time, and outsmarting them with her wit, with her imagination and her intelligence. What's tragic is that she starts imitating the men around her at the end, and that's her downfall. On the other side, we have June Hawkins, who is also working in a toxic male masculinity environment, but in the law enforcement side. So we have, two opposite sides of the same coin, kind of talking to each other and complementing each other.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, though, I think you don't glamorize, as you said, that she starts acting like the men toward the end. You don't glamorize Griselda or sugarcoat her motivations, which I think is admirable too.
Thank you. It's always important not to glamorize. It's important to humanize. I think that's always important, to show that we are just multifaceted people, and there's not only one thing that defines us. So humanizing is important. Glamorizing is something that we will always try to avoid.
At the same time, though, I think the real life Griselda Blanco would have been thrilled to see that she was depicted by Sofia Vergara. in terms of in terms of appearance, if I may be so bold. She just by being on screen, no matter how you dress her down, she's still a beautiful woman.
No, and absolutely, she's still very beautiful. And even though the process of transforming her through prosthetics and makeup, it was a tough one, because make her look as much as the real Griselda as possible. But then you start noticing that it's not possible, especially in the time that you have when you're shooting a show. And so what Sofia and I decided, which was important, is like, let's try to be different than Sofia Vergara. That's what we want to do, to take away from Sofia, not as much as to get closer to the real Griselda, but to take away from the Sofia, so that you feel that you're embodying someone else and that you're not that, that Sofia Vergara we all know. And when we kind of found that between us, we found the look, and it was very, very. I mean, we were about to shoot. It was like we found that look like a week or a week and a half before starting to shoot. We tried a lot of noses and eyebrows and we did many tests, and finally we settled on this one. Mm-hmm.
Well, it works. It all works beautifully. I think we're gonna leave things there. All 6 hours of Griselda are streaming on Netflix. Andres Baiz, best of luck to you this Emmy season and every season, and thanks for joining us today at Gold Derby.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's great, and I hope everyone can watch the show and be fascinated by Sofia's performance and the show in general. So thank you.